Pane Padme Hum. Hello dear YouTube Sangha, and welcome to this video entitled The Legacy of Peaceful Resistance. The struggle for civil rights in the United States is often characterized by the passionate voices and determined actions of various leaders advocating for equality. Among these champions, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stands out as a beacon of peaceful resistance. His dedication to nonviolent protest in the face of systemic oppression transformed the civil rights movement, making the 1960s with an ethos of compassion and strategic action. Dr. King's reliance on nonviolence was not merely a tactical decision, but deeply rooted in his heartfelt convictions, notably drawing inspiration from the Indian sage Mahatma Gandhi and his principles of nonviolent resistance. Dr. King understood that to enact true change, it was critical to appeal to the moral conscience of both individuals and society as a whole. His famous I Have a Dream speech encapsulated this vision, where he articulated a dream grounded in equality and justice, urging Americans to rise above hatred and use love as a catalyst for social transformation. Throughout King's campaigns, from the Birmingham campaign to the March on Washington, he continually emphasized the need for nonviolent protest. His philosophy was that aggression and violence would only perpetuate the cycle of hatred, making reconciliation impossible. By instilling this principle into the fabric of the movement, Dr. King not only pushed back against Jim Crow laws, but also challenged our nation to reconsider its ethical foundations. And this is what is needed now, possibly more than ever, as various clever means of oppression are being felt and reintroduced to many around the world. A significant moment in Dr. King's peaceful resistance came during the Selma to Montgomery marches in 1965, where protests faced brutal retaliation from authorities. King's steadfast commitment to nonviolence in the face of violence became a powerful narrative that swayed public opinion. Images of peaceful demonstrators being brutally attacked were broadcast across the nation, leading to widespread outrage and ultimately the passage of the Voting Rights Act. This act was not merely a legislative victory, it was an acknowledgement that the path of peace could forge real and meaningful change in the legal and cultural landscape of America. Unfortunately, the hearts of many in this nation have been hardened to resist this notion of moral outrage and shame. The current status quo has rendered such appeals all but useless. So it behooves us to find ways to measure accountability in a whole new way, distinct from what worked in the past. I believe by understanding where Dr. King's legacy has been upheld most, we will find the wisdom needed to realize those new measures. As Dr. King committed himself to the fight for civil rights, he found a profound friendship with the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Zen master who shared the same philosophical tenets that lead to peace, compassion, and understanding. Their relationship showed how different traditions could intersect, building a coalition forged in mutual understanding and respect. The Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh introduced Dr. King to the concepts of engaged Buddhism, which advocates for social action based on ethical living and mindfulness. This approach methodically aligns with Dr. King's vision of nonviolence, as it emphasizes the importance of being reflective and compassionate in the face of suffering, not only for individuals, but also for societies burdened by injustice. The scope of our concern extends beyond tribes, states, and nations. Thus, we actually realize the ethos of America's founders. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of those ends, It is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. The Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings extend beyond personal mindfulness into the realm of social responsibility. He advocates for the interconnectedness of all beings and underscored that true peace can only arise from the commitment to alleviating suffering in oneself and others. Following the Vietnam War, the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh became a vocal figure urging for peace and reconciliation, promoting ideas that echo Dr. King's own efforts. In his book, Peace is Every Step, the Venerable articulates a vision of a harmonious world achieved through individual and collective mindfulness practices, reinforcing that personal transformation is key to broader social change. This mindfulness and the stalwart strength of mind and character it instills are precisely the tools we can make use of in today's movement, and it can be of civilizational use to the millennia to follow, once balance is established. Both Dr. King and the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh understood that their respective movements were not only about immediate political goals, but were also about fostering a societal ethos that embraces compassion and respect. Their legacies are not confined to the past, they continue to inspire contemporary movements aiming to invoke change through peaceful means. One clear example of this ongoing influence can be seen in the global climate justice movement. Activists today, drawing on the peaceful resistance methodology espoused by Dr. King and the mindfulness principles of the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, engage in various forms of protest that prioritize nonviolent actions and community solidarity. Youth-led climate strikes, the Occupy movement, Black Lives Matter, Veterans for Peace, and various other countercultural movements call for justice, employing collective action grounded in love for Earth and humanity. Moreover, the Black Lives Matter movement carries forward Dr. King's ideals of equality and justice. Activists within this movement emphasize nonviolent protest while pushing for systemic change against racial injustices. Black Lives Matter directly addresses the systemic and pernicious nature of current systems of oppression. The current form of oppression is all-pervasive, yet only discernible through discourse analysis of some kind. We have to grow wise to the devices of oppression that run rampant in today's society. But we who love peace can only effect change if we, as Dr. King put it, learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh exemplify the enduring power of peaceful resistance and compassion in the fight against injustice. Their legacies highlight that true change arises not only from great acts of courage, but also from quiet, determined calls for love and understanding. The movements they inspired continue to shape the world today, and I hope they ensure that compassion remains a potent force for progress. This year and this weekend marks the third memorial ceremony for our beloved teacher, the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, where he is being memorialized at the Root Temple in Vietnam. Hundreds of monastics from plum village centers around the world gathered. I could only look on in vicarious mudita, or sympathetic joy. I feel the United States ideally celebrate Dr. King as a nation, but those who are aware among engaged Buddhist circles celebrate the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh. I pray his efforts will be commemorated with just as much reverence someday. But a lot of work must be done to engender that level of commemoration. With that said, may all beings be happy and well, and may you have a great yet reflective Martin Luther King Jr. Day weekend.